All right, think about this for a second. Imagine a single financial decision that impacts almost 350 million people. A decision that was meant to bring a whole continent together, but maybe, just maybe, ended up trapping it instead. Today, we're going to unpack the story of the euro, what might be Europe's 14 trillion euro mistake. So, to really get our heads around what went wrong with the euro, we've got to start at the very beginning, with what some people call the original sin of its design. And that right there, that's pretty much the exact situation 20 European nations willingly walked into. They built this big, beautiful new monetary house altogether. But in the process, they agreed to a very, very strange and, frankly, dangerous rule. Yeah, it sounds completely insane, right? Because when these countries gave up their own currencies, the drachma, the lira, the peseta, they basically handed over the key to their own economic front door. They lost the single most important tool they had to protect themselves when a storm inevitably hit. So you end up with this economic Frankenstein's monster. You've stitched together the massive industrial engine of Germany with, say, the tourism-based economy of Greece, and then you force them to share the exact same financial DNA. This original sin, this design flaw, was basically a crisis just waiting to happen. And boy, would it happen. So how did this massive flaw lead to a party that almost burned the whole house down? Well, for that, we need to talk about the incredible illusion of wealth that washed over Southern Europe in the early 2000s. Okay, and this is where things just get wild. Before the euro, if you wanted to lend money to Greece, it was pretty risky, so you'd charge them high interest. Lending to Germany, super safe, low rates. But the second they all started using the euro, it was like the markets got amnesia. They started looking at Greek debt and seeing German safety. And oh my, were they disastrously wrong. I mean, seriously, what would you do? You'd go on a shopping spree, right? Of course you would. And that is exactly what happened. For countries like Greece, Spain, and Italy, it felt like they'd hit the jackpot. Money was practically free, and the good times looked like they were here to stay. And the result was a borrowing binge of truly epic proportions. And this wasn't just governments, this was everybody. We're talking cheap money funding everything from the Athens Olympics to a gigantic, completely unsustainable real estate bubble in Spain. It really felt like the party would never, ever stop. But all parties have to end. And this one lasted for about 9 years. And when the 2008 global financial crisis hit, that trap that was built right into the euro's design didn't just spring shut, it snapped shut with incredible, brutal force. When the global economy just froze solid, every country in the world was scrambling. But the countries inside the Eurozone, they quickly discovered that they were uniquely and terrifyingly helpless. And here's the problem. They had given the only key to their house to someone else. In this case, to the European Central Bank, a bunch of bankers sitting in Frankfurt who were now in charge of the money for the entire continent. Think about it. They couldn't devalue their currency to make their products cheaper and boost their economies. And this is the big one, unlike the US or the UK, they couldn't just print more money to pay their bills. They were totally trapped. No escape hatch. None. And the moment investors realized Greece couldn't just print its way out of this mess, the panic started. All of a sudden, that cheap money wasn't so cheap anymore. Those borrowing costs that had fueled the whole party started to creep up. And they didn't just creep up, they skyrocketed. The confidence that the market had built up over a decade, it just vanished. Poof, gone, almost overnight. 30%? I mean, at those kinds of interest rates, you can't function. You're effectively bankrupt. And the really scary part was, it wasn't just about Greece anymore. Wall Street, London, Tokyo, everyone was watching and asking, okay, who's next? The fear was spreading like a wildfire to Italy, to Spain, to Portugal. The entire Euro project was teetering on the edge of total collapse. So, faced with complete and utter disaster, did Europe finally fix the fundamental problem? Nope. Instead, it started a desperate, decade-long gamble to just keep the whole thing from blowing up. They decided to kick the can down the road. These 3 little words, spoken by the head of the European Central Bank, were part of what might be the biggest, most high-stakes bluff in financial history. It was a clear signal to the markets. Stop betting against these countries, because our checkbook is bigger than yours. We will be the buyer of last resort. We will guarantee everything.